Alright, hello everyone and welcome to AEW Discussion. I'm your host and AEW enthusiast, Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Dynamite, November 15th, 2023 edition, the go-home episode before Full Gear. And, well, if AEW wanted to sell people on the pay-per-view they didn't really do a good job with this episode of convincing people to buy the pay-per-view. Granted, I was going to buy it anyway, just because I was gonna buy it anyway, but if I was needing a reason, this episode wasn't giving me one. And with that, we're going to get right into the action, starting with the opening match: Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta versus Orange Cassidy and Hook. And a competitive matchup concluded with Cassidy and Moxley brawling at ringside while Yuta trapped Hook in the seatbelt pin and scored the win. Afterward, Moxley suggested Cassidy is shaken and that he will win the International Championship Saturday night. The finish was smart in that it preserved Cassidy and Moxley while highlighting the intensifying rivalry between the two. It also put over Yuta as a potential challenger for the FTW Championship, perhaps at Full Gear. Maybe that's a 0-hour match that gets added. Tony Khan sees fit. This was a solid way to kick off the night show and add a little something extra add a little bit more to the Moxley versus Cassidy match. Although I don't necessarily agree with the whole idea of having a brawl to start the show when you're on the same show you have a street fight. But yeah, whatever. Red Velvet versus Sky Blue, and the action between these two was solid. The match featured some quality near falls, and the right competitor won over. Blue has spent weeks entangled in a rivalry with Julia Hart, while mounting distrust has threatened her friendship with Chris Statlander. She has improved as a wrestler, Sky has, Blue has, and has earned this opportunity to show off on the Full Gear stage. The question is what chance does she have of winning the title? Or is she just a fall person, the person there to take a pin for either Hart or Statlander? It would be nice to see Sky Blue win a championship, but I also like Julia Hart to win a title too. So this is a tough matchup and very interesting predicament Tony Khan has got himself in. Does he stick with the champion Statlander, or does he take a chance on Hart or Blue? Either way, with these three, I would say you can't really go wrong with who you pick to win. Penta, El Zero, Miro, and Commander versus the Young Bucks, and the match featured non-stop action and little in the way of an in-match narrative and a total lack of selling. Despite the shortcomings of this match, it accomplished what it was supposed to do, which was establish the Bucks as villains by way of a pair of low blows, a mocking Judas effect, and a BTA trigger for the win. So bad guy Bucks are the best Bucks, and given how things were trending with the audiences anyway, probably was a wise move to just go ahead and make the switch now. Now what it means for Full Gear and their match with Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, that was weird. I hope that didn't show up in the audio thing, otherwise I'll have to mute it, but either way, as I was saying, so what the Bucks change in character means for Full Gear and their match with Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega is a question that will be answered Saturday night. And then the show concludes with a Like a Dragon street fight, and this was a wild, chaotic match with bodies battered and bloody, leading to a finish that saw Omega and Jericho duct tape Will Hobbs to the ropes before Omega delivered a one-wing into the cage for the win. Credit to the competitors for the effort they put into this match. I don't know if Paul White was shoot injured or not, but I'll give that man credit. There was no reason for him to be taking the kind of bump that he did, but he took it. Whether it was a good idea or bad idea, I guess it depends on whether or not he was shoot injured or not. And Ibushi, yeah, that spot into the chair is completely unnecessary. I mean, listen, like I said, I respect what these guys are doing, but also some of it is just downright stupid and downright unnecessary. But yeah, overall the match was what it was, delivered what was promised, but it does raise the question of what is next for the Don Callis family. This was another big loss in the same week that Jericho defeated Takeshita in the DDT Pro Ring. Now, granted, that doesn't really mean much in regards to AEW, but it is a little side note to take into account. What credibility does the thrown together Don Callis family have at this point after this loss? Probably none would be the answer to that. So in conclusion, as a go-home show, this was not a particularly great effort from AEW. Less than half of the pay-per-view was represented. Nothing was really advanced in the in-ring work board between meh and mostly good, but little more. Taking each match or segment individually, they were mostly good, but as a show that should have been designed to convince fans to purchase full gear, the show did not quite hit as much as the company should have hoped for. So I don't know if it's going to have that big of an impact, but certainly didn't really didn't sell people on your pay-per-view. But again, we'll see if that actually has any negative impact. I don't know how much go-home shows actually have, how much of an impact they have compared to the actual card itself, but I think it's a pretty solid card. I think it should be a solid pay-per-view. And yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of AEW Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.